Hello, and welcome to the Cuyahoga Sound for our latest episode here. I'm Chuck Schilling.
And I'm Evan Stone.
And today our guest is...
I'm Dave.
Do I
get Dave Dietke, or some people call me Ziggy D? Do I look at the camera? We don't need to do that, right? Can we just like what's going on, camera world? And people will be like, "Why is everyone staring at the camera?"
No, just to the beginning and the end. I think is the only time
it's like the Wayne's World sign off, and then like
we actually haven't started the last episode with the count-in.
1, 2, or is it? It's 4.
I was
3.
nodding my head. That's exactly how we started.
But yeah, cool. Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I know we've been going back and forth trying to get this together, so like it's cool to finally that everyone's good and healthy, and like that we can do this, and it's cool to do something in person. Like I haven't done like a interview in person for a while, and even when I did, it was like me plus a friend interviewing someone else that wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is cool.
Yeah, we love it, man. We love having people come in. Yeah, I guess I'm a little less COVID cautious than some people.
Bum.
Like I got my
coughing up in here,
right?
Like, licking doorknobs, whatever.
That's where all the great germs are.
That's where
I got my shots. I think I'm good. We'll see.
You're doing the bit, right? That's all we can do.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Ziggy. Yeah, it's great to have you. When Chuck first came up with this idea, you were one of the first names I thought of, and good to finally get you in here, man. You've got your roots running all over town. You know, like everyone's got good things to say about you.
Yeah, you've been mentioned plenty of times. You've been mentioned just about as much as Kent.
All right. Well, cool. Well, shucks. Well, thanks. Hopefully it wasn't fucking Dave guy always ruining shit.
We cut those parts.
Okay, we got a special clip reel for you after this. That we're gonna play.
That's for our
Just
Patreon members.
That's for the Patreon members. Yo, if you put that, if that's a real thing, Cody's gonna pay a lot of money to hear that reel. He's like, yeah, man, I just want to hear that reel where you just beat on Dave. Like, let me hear that one. The shit. That'd be dope. But cool. Well, no, what brought you guys to do this?
So I had been, playing music and everything. My brothers are in Among the Willows.
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah. No. Who's your brother?
The drummer and the bass player are both my brothers.
Okay.
Two of my brothers. I have another brother that lives in Columbus. He's another drummer.
Yeah.
But,
did you guys all start playing drums together or what?
Our dad's a drummer. Dad's a drummer. He told none of us, he said, don't play drums. You got too much stuff to carry. Be a singer or something.
Yeah.
We listen really well, as you can tell by all the drums around here. But
surrounded by 2 kids is pretty rad.
But yeah, I was like, all right. I think coming up with a way to help promote them without, I do marketing. So I'm like, how can I help promote them and other acts like them without having to charge for marketing,
right.
Doing it in a way that's fun and enjoyable. So like, this isn't a job. We're having fun BSing with everybody and meeting new people. I've probably said it way too many times if we have regular listeners, but I was in the cover band scene.
Yeah.
And they're like totally different scenes. Like they don't come across too often. So a lot of this is like a brand new world to me. Like I know a lot of the cover band dudes. I've been in, freaking dozens of bands.
Like which ones?
If a lot of tribute band stuff.
Like single band tributes. Like this is a Queen tribute band. Like wow.
So Evan and I
That's how we met.
Yeah, we were in a Chili Peppers tribute.
Okay, that's what we were talking about a little bit.
So we were in that before. Like I had a ZZ Top tribute.
When I had that strat done that way.
Okay. Yeah, that's sick.
Journey, Leonard Skinner, Motley Crue, as far as the tribute bands, and then I was in. Most recently, I was in Bad Juju doing a lot of '90s stuff.
Okay.
And then a bunch of classic rock bands, all that fun stuff. But nothing original since like I was doing like new metal stuff in 2001 when that was new, But then got into cover, so it's great to Evan knew all these people. And we've gotten along really well, so like as soon as I had this idea, I'm like, Evan, I can't do this without you, man. You got to I don't see this going forward without you being part of it. So like we brainstormed, we came up with this. Chuck Kaminsky from Basement Trader, our sponsor, helped us out with some microphones to get us started. And
I mean, love these microphones. Yeah.
These are very nice mics. Chuck really did a good job with Chuck's microphone.
But we I don't know where the hell I was going with that. Yeah. But it went from concept, like just idea, to like first episode in what, a month maybe?
Less than that.
Less than that.
You told me, you said, hey, let's do this, because it wasn't the first time we talked about it. It was an idea that had been buried, and he's like, you ready? And I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. Started messaging people. You started getting this together.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. That's all it takes is doing it, and but that's the hardest part is like doing it. Yeah. And like being I feel like so much of everything now is like postered so someone can be like, they'll figure it out, sure. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of like whatever you put out's put out there and is quick judged, and like that I think it's a turnoff for a lot of people to try things. Yeah. And like, but to kind of with marketing, that's really interesting because like coming from that like back, did you like that's like the day gig, right?
Yeah.
And that is like
and
marketing.
It's a recent day gig. Like I was in construction for years. I just graduated from college in this past May. So
cool. Congrats.
Late bloomer,
No, there's no like I feel like people like won't they're like, oh, I'm too old for college, but dude, Tri-City's fucking dope. I was is that where you went?
I went to Lakeland.
Okay.
I went to Lakeland and then I went to Baldwin Wallace. So
okay, awesome.
Up there.
But yeah, I mean, there's no wrong time to do it, and like I don't know, when I started going to school after school, that's when I really felt like I started learning.
Yeah. Like
I feel like through high school, there's so much like weird pressure to figure out who you are, what you're gonna do, and even how your brain works to accept learning. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's when you get into college, it's kind of like when you really figure that out and figure out how to like use this knowledge or get through it the right way.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, so I've talked to a few people like, I'm too old for college. I'm like, no, you're not.
No, absolutely not. Like
you may not have the money to do it, but like you're not too old to learn.
Definitely not too old, man. I found it a lot easier. Like I did terrible through high school and everything, and went to college, and it was straight A's all the way through. It was way easier. I mean, I'm also married, so I'm not chasing chicks around all the time.
Right. Well,
so I can focus on schoolwork.
Yeah, the time you're trying to figure all that shit out. Right. But like it's interesting. I feel like were you doing the cover bands while doing marketing, and did that kind of roll into each other?
So because I graduated like in the middle of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
Things were kind of winding down towards the end with doing the cover bands. And at the same time, like when we didn't really know, like how I said before, how I'm a little bit more like laid back with the COVID right now, like before knowing what was going on, I felt like it wasn't worth putting people at risk to see art that wasn't mine.
Okay.
I call it paint by numbers, and I'm like,
yeah.
Go see the real band if you want to risk it. Don't go see me playing Rolling Stones or something like that. Like I didn't feel good about putting people at risk if they were doing that, and I know it's their own decision, but it took away from some of the joy of being on stage. It made me rethink things. So
definitely,
yeah.
It's just interesting, kind of like the idea of art. I don't know, like it's something I've been trying to understand. I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? But that's cool. That's cool. And like this is a really cool format to do it because like to all talk about what we're doing while we're here, what we're doing. You know what I mean? But that's awesome, and I'm stoked to be here. Let me turn it back to I'm not asking questions. I'm
just doing.
That's all right. So what got you into it?
So I started as far as like podcasting. I started doing it to utilize time. Like we were playing shows, and I thought a cool bit for a podcast would be to do a podcast at the gig. So that's why the one I do is called Zig at the Gig, and I would do it in my van initially. Whoever we were playing with, I would be like, hey, you want to do a podcast in my van? And people would be like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and like so. But eventually, some people were like, yeah, all right. So like, I remember the first one I did was like Maple Lanes with this dude in Washington from this band Nightmare Police from New York, and it was in Maple. Have you ever played Maple Lanes?
No,
it's in Cleveland. It's an interesting spot. So we were hanging in. I had two mics set up in my van, and the mixer in the back, like in the laptop in the back, and just started shooting the shit. And to be like we'd do bits like this show is gonna go awful, and then we would do a recap at the end. That show went all right. You know what I mean? Like, but it got to be way too much on the gig. Like it's hard to like be there, do the thing, and be like, oh, let's do a podcast. And, you know what I mean? Like, just how like we were talking about how long we've been going back and forth to put this together. That's not an easy it's not easy to do, especially when you're like, I'm here to do the thing. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got set to the wayside. Then I started using it to like kind of push stuff at negative space. So trying to do the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that would tinker, like I was working with a guy who would mix it for me through negative space. And then he would give me all the episodes like the day of. I'm like, well, cool. Like all the bands, like I felt bad because I felt like you kind of honor the person's time who takes to be here to do it, you know? So I felt bad for that. So I stopped doing it for a while. And then like when COVID, the shutdown started, Michelle Gall started doing the virtual shows CLE. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a reason that, how can I help? I can try to interview people and give you an extra thing to litter the internet with. So I just started every week. She had 3 people, so I'd interview 3 people and just started taking off like that.
Yeah.
So it became kind of like a during that process, instead of like pusher whatever, it became more of like a insight search. Like it became like, well, what makes your brain tick about this, and like why do you think that is? And it became more about kind of like digging for insight, and like because I would have these conversations, even the ones in the vans, and like think about them later. I'm like, oh, that was kind of a cool bit. I'm trying to recall a cool bit from one of the early ones, but I can't really remember. But it started to become like a thing like that. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of when everything was shut down, I get a little manic. Like I like to try to plan things ahead when you can't do that. Yeah. I had like that shutdown. I had like a schedule of like I would wake up, I'd practice this, I'd practice that, I just had like a 11 through 5 practice routine, so I would keep my sanity, and like then would like try to do something. So I don't know if I like networking, but I'm not good at the marketing end of it. I just like talking to people and trying to like, why do you like the color blue? You know what I mean? Like so there's something that can be inspiring about what blue means to you that I've never thought about it. And now every time I look at, like I said blue because of the drum, but every time I look at that, I'm going to think of that time, whoever told me blue is the one color that you don't find in nature. Did I do that?
No. The lights are slowly fading.
You were right with that one.
Yeah, that one's the troublemaker, but he's got a friend right now. So I think I'm actually going to take a risk and turn on the house lights so we don't have a completely dark show.
That's all right. So we can do this in the dark. What about this nice like palm tree lamp?
The lasers? Yeah, that's...
Those are lasers?
Fog machine.
These palm tree lamps?
No.
Okay. I think it looks nice. I don't know. But I'm bad with light. Like I'm not good with like lighting and all that. That's another brain set.
Hey, it's all right.
So that's kind of why I really got into podcasting and got like really into it, is to try to like do that that inspiration, that like insight dive, you know.
Yeah, make people think about things the way they haven't thought about them before.
Right. And even if it's just selfish in a way, just like how I want to think about something I never thought of before, like that way. Yeah. And like it kind of helps with like explaining things when you like learn to think about them in a new way and kind of be more empathetic, and like what we're doing right now. If we would try to have a conversation remotely like this at a gig, it would never pan out. You know, I did one yesterday with this guy, Matt Pless, and we were talking about, man, I hate when people try to talk at gigs because you can't hear what they're saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like at a gig, like, yeah, so great set. And you're like, yeah. What? Yeah. You know, like I got to talk tomorrow. Like, or if you're a touring guy, I got to sing tomorrow.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I can relate to that, man. When I was thinking about how we were going to do this podcast, I immediately thought of like people that I admire or inspire me, because I want to know things about how they think and how they practice, how they hear music, how they write, and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm asking those kind of questions.
That's cool. Let's do that.
And it's helping me know.
We hear some cool answers too, man.
Yeah.
Brent Kirby was talking about how he was songwriting pre 9/11.
Yeah.
He would go to the airport and just hang out at the departures and listen to conversations with loved ones when they were like wishing each other well. And lyrics would just come right out, you know?
That's interesting. Yeah, now it's like, what's this dude doing? He's taking notes. Get him out of here.
Swarm.
Especially with that beard Brent's got. Like, but That's interesting. I read this book on Jeff Tweedy's book on songwriting. Have you read that?
No, I haven't.
It's called How to Write One Song, or I think it's called How to Write One Song. It's like this little book, and there's maybe that was from. I read a couple books on songwriting. I did an interview with this guy Steve Dawson. I think this was from his book, and he just said to listen to people. He's like, go sit in a park, basically be that weird dude eavesdropping. But sometimes someone says like a line that, that sticks out and becomes a little song seed. So that's but the airport one, because if you think about it, that's a really emotionally impactful moment for a lot of things. Like, see you years from now, or it's been years. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting insights like that is, a big part that I like best about the podcast, for me.
So before we get into the deep questions, let's learn a little bit about Dave.
All right.
Here we go. This is where the shit reel starts. No. So Tyler just said, you can't juggle. And he would be right.
Cool. You from Cleveland?
Yeah. So I was born in Cleveland, and I grew up in Cleveland on West 140th. And then when I was about 6 or 7, we moved to Olmsted Falls. And that's where most of my academic career and, growing up was. So
cool. And then when did you stumble upon music as a passion?
So my brother played guitar, and he wanted to, he got one of those Squier Strat kits. Yeah. And,
the little amp.
Yeah, the little amp, And he wanted to learn to play guitar. But before that, they're like, okay, you got to play piano. I think really my brother Joe, he wanted to play drums, and I think he was inching his way towards an accepted guitar because it was equally as cool. I don't know for sure, but there was a guitar eventually, and he did some piano lessons. I don't think he liked it at all. I think he just, he was just doing it because that's the thing. When you start music, usually, well, you want to start on piano. Was that the same for you guys?
Well, my dad was a drummer, so
you get there's already a kit there. Everyone's got what do you call it when you hear the ringing in your ears?
Oh yeah,
tinnitus. Everyone's already got that. It's fine.
Well, for me, piano was the foundation. I had been put in lessons along with my 4 sisters. We all took piano lessons from age 5 or 6 to about 11 or 12, and so music became a fluent language for us because our formative minds were learning grammar and spelling kind of stuff, how to English at the same rate as reading a staff and seeing the whole how music works together laid out in front of you.
Right. That's a specific thing to piano. I think that's very big picture. Piano supplies that big picture.
That's right. Yeah. It's its own orchestra.
Right. And
so is guitar to a point. Because when I went to guitar mainly because it was cooler.
Yeah. Well, for you? What age was that?
That was age 12.
Okay, age 12. I'm trying to.
Yeah, everyone in I think one of somebody in my youth group said well, if you're gonna be a Christian, you get to play guitar, and that stands out for me. I'm not religious, but
but guitar's
that
fucking
was
cool.
That's how I was able to convince my dad get me a guitar. Get me.
That's awesome.
A Carlo Rebelli. I don't know if they make those anymore from Sam Ash when I was about 12 years old. And then, I just started playing. You got Green Day and Sex Pistols, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's like, wait, whoa. What's going on here? God save the Queen. That's dope, though. Was it a?
But it was very confidence building. I've talked about this on the podcast before.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Taking the knowledge from piano, looking at a fretboard and being able to see it, just know how to play.
And that made sense to you? Mm-hmm. It was clear?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Once I found out, the intervals of the strings,
right.
That each note was a semitone. Each fret was a semitone.
Right.
I'm okay. All right. And this is E. And okay, so it's this much on the keyboard, and then you get to the 4th and the 5th fret to go to the next string.
Right.
And once I learned those basics, I was able to teach myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I did take a couple lessons, and then I did classical guitar training in college. But
was it where at? Where did you?
At Kent State.
At Kent State.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ding.
cool. Ding. Cool. We gotta get like a Kent buzzer. Like
we need the Kent bell. Like I went to Office Max looking for like one of those desk bells.
Oh, that was easy.
They were sold out, man, because that's Kent gets mentioned so often.
Well, I mean, that's where you're kind of get your like training from, And it's interesting. Okay, like so with piano, I feel it's kind of like I've used this analogy before, and like. But like it's like with piano, it's like you're standing on a hill overlooking a city, and you can see all the routes, right? You can see from above how everything, like where it needs to go and where it can go. Like, oh, if you're gonna get to the theater, it's there, and you're kind of on this ledge where you can see everything, so it's clear. And like with guitar, it's like being in the city, and you're like, oh, this is E block, I gotta take it to C block, but it's very like. It's kind of pattern based, and you're not really thinking about the big picture in a way, like you are with piano. Mm-hmm. And like when you said it's like an orchestra, because it kind of is. You can cover anything, and like, well, I don't need to go to the F block. All I have to do is do that. I just got to find that interval or not that inversion. Right. Like which guitar I think is a later thing to learn because you learn mostly how to like like you're moving blocks for a while until like you start to really think of it.
Your first like year and a half is open chords,
right?
Or just like the fretted ones and the couple frets up, or and later you learn about like taking the C chord up to the up the frets,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, then you're like, well, I can play it here. Or now it's the first inversion. Here's the six. Like, well, that would be the first inversion. Here's a 6/4 inversion.
You not have to completely change positions to get to two different chords.
Right. Right.
And that was, that was a later thing with piano too. You first learn piano, you learn the chords in their 1, 3, 5 order on the right hands. Octaves or fifths on the left hand, and then you learn
how to crawl it up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting because you get that whole vast picture of music.
Yeah, I like that. I like that mountain and city
analogy. Okay,
yeah. That's awesome. I just started. I had been playing guitar. I just started piano last year, and like that's a perfect analogy. Where I'm like, oh, this makes so much more sense. Like,
and I bet as a drummer too, like I've noticed this weird trend with drummers. Like I think it's because of the what do you call it? The multi-limb working thing.
Yeah. Ambidextrous.
Thank you. Being able to do that. Like I was like, dude, come on, brain, remember that word. But like to have that split between two different rhythms and two different limbs.
Yeah.
Like where guitar is kind of like this is supporting that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like it's weird because like with piano, your rhythm hand is like your left, where that's your lead hand on guitar. Mm-hmm. It's a flip flopping. Like it's all I think relative. It's all music, right? So you should be able to figure it out if you spent way too much time like hitting the circle with this stick. Like and like I know if I do it in this specific thing, I can make that pattern.
Yeah.
And now I just do that with a pitch, like But it's really the fineness of the instrument, like the little things that make it that instrument that are challenging, like. But that's cool. So have you played guitar first, or?
Yeah, I had been playing guitar. So I started playing guitar as a drummer because I was in like middle school and nobody could afford we couldn't afford monitors.
Oh no!
So I'm like, all right, where's the guitar player at?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch and see where he's at. So I learned to play guitar because I was too poor to have a monitor. So I'm like, oh, this is where he's at. If I can't hear him, because I'm a basher on drums, I'm pretty loud, most of the time. But yeah, so it came out of like necessity. Okay. I went into that and then just kind of grabbed to it. But the drums are still where it was at for me. But I'd always wanted to try piano, and I was intimidated by it. Just seeing everything laid out. And now that I'm working, I'm like, this is making more sense to me than guitar. And then going back to guitar, I'm like, all right, now this is making more sense to me than it did before.
So it's all feeding. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of drummers that play piano as well. And a lot of drummers that are pianos that are also studio engineered, like minded. I don't know if do you record stuff?
A little bit.
Okay. But I mean, also it's necessity now. You can't like not like be like I want to do music without being like I got an interface and a Mac. You know what I mean? Like, like it all kind of rolls together in a good way. I think it's good to be able to do that. So long-winded way. Like it was laying around. My brother wasn't playing it, so I'm like. I want to try it. Let me take a lesson. And the guy kind of showed me, his name was Henry James from Tub Thumpers. He showed me how to play, like, do you know Tub Thumpers? It was a music store in Olmsted.
Okay.
And he showed me just how, like, the physicality worked. And so, like, I'd started kind of, like, looking stuff up on the early internet and like printing off a crap ton of tabs, just like, and there wasn't too many. There was that one tab website that was like, it was yellow and it would play it. And then you can like learn the first bar of "Wish You Were Here" or whatever. Like,
It was like MX tabs.
It was MX. Yeah. Man, I haven't thought about that in a while. But like,
I use that a lot too.
Yeah. Like, so I remember he showed me just how to make notes, and I kind of like learned some stuff in between. Like, he would also show me some of the chords, and I took lessons for a little bit, and like was just like kind of like figuring out. I'm like, it clicks. So that's it. Just because it was laying around and not getting used was kind of the thing, and like it started to make sense a little bit. So I just kept trying to figure out bits. Like, I think the first bit I figured out was "Sweet Home Chicago," that the beginning intro lit to the Blues Brothers version of it.
Okay.
I'm
sure I know
with that film?
I heard it. Yeah, I've seen Blues Brothers. So
so it's like not Chicago. It's like a blues turnaround in a way.
Okay.
When you're doing the like, it sounds just like that, listeners. That's totally it right there.
Yeah.
But but that's later looking at it. That's what it was. It was just a turnaround, but it was cool. So yeah.
All right.
Talking about those tabs, I stumbled upon this YouTube channel where the guy's going through old tab books that just have things completely wrong. And like that's what like the whole channel is like wrong tab books.
Yeah, tabs are a very interesting form of like notation because they go back to lutes. They're shorthand. And like for me that's an excuse to teach with it. I'm like, yeah, we're going to learn this way. Look at this is a lute paper that uses lute tab. And like it's an actual for strung instruments, like at least folk strung instruments, it was a shorthand that would be used for since lute was the guitar,
Yeah.
I wish I had the actual number. I should have done my fact checking.
Bajillions of years, man.
Bajillions of years when the pick of destiny was created. Like that's when tabs came around. When like the first maiden need the real like
they were on real stone tablets.
They were on real stone tablets, and you got real pop-ups. And if you downloaded the app, you can see it better. It was no longer on a pebble; it was on a real boulder or whatever.
What just happened?
I think we improv the perfect Flintstones bit for the internet. But yeah, like so the tabs I think are completely. The only thing that sucks is you don't get the rhythmic value like you do in sheet music. But when you're starting, it doesn't matter. I think when you start an instrument, if you can pick up that thing and make it sound slightly familiar to what you're used to, that's a win. You know.
Some of the better tabs have 8 or 16 in each measure.
Right.
And they give the one and E and a
yeah. Those are the guys that put in time. Yeah. But even then, when you're first starting to play, you can't think that fine. That it's different when you build your way up with rhythmic value and looking at it piano, reading sheet music and the way you really should. But as a kid, that's that's boring. It's cooler than Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Anything, you know what I mean? Hitting the piano with both hands and screaming, it's cooler. But you post learning that you learn why that makes sense. I don't know. So it's
tabs are more relatable for sure,
right? Because it's
for a learning tool. I only use them anymore. The only time I ever do read sheet music is when I'm in some of my practice books.
Right. For runs or what type of practice books?
Oh, just for expansion, of my skill and mind for it.
So it'd be
I have an Argentina guitar book, and I have a couple of the classical ones still from college that I run through, and then I still get some more of those too. It's transcribed Bach, some of it, or some of the this Segovia stuff.
There you go. That'll take you some
time. Yeah. It's sometimes it'll take me 3 weeks to get one piece down with a little bit of free time I have. But
right, but when you're reading like that, it should you know what I mean? And I don't know. There's a lot that goes into reading classical, especially for guitar. As far as sheet music, guitar is lost. Piano makes sense. Here's middle C.
Right.
And guitar, you can kind of put it wherever, and unless
that's why tabs are it. That's totally fine. That's taking over. That's how people are learning. They have I've seen in the modern music tab books, sheet music books. It's like the tabs are above the actual notes when they have it sectioned off like that.
And I think that's spacing wise. I think just because tabs are a little bigger than the actual note, at least for guitar, because you got treble clef, right? Like I'm trying. Probably in your books, they're probably just all sheet music, What's Argentinian stuff you like tango? Or are you digging into?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, man, and a lot of flamenco.
You play it with a rose in your mouth?
No.
Flamenco is interesting. I have a friend, Gabriel Xavier, he's been making films. They've been making films now, and they dove deep into flamenco music, and that whole 12 concept, right? Counting in 12, and the palmas. I'm saying that wrong. What's that? It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like just the rhythm of it, like the actual the steady pulse of a. Oh, I can't remember the format of the song right now. Starts with a B. Gabe's gonna be like, you sounded like this is just gonna go into the Dave sucks reel. But the Raschiato, and doing the 5 thing, and trying to. It's interesting because it's so foreign in a way as far as how you're used to counting. Right. Having that 12 feel, it throws you off. But it's also so refreshing and because harmonically that's not hitting too much. There's not too much
no, it's a lot
chordal movement,
and it's percussive.
Right, it's real percussive, and it's supposed to be for the dancers.
Yeah.
And but it's interesting because there's so much flair to it in a good way, that harmonic value not being there and not being a prominent part of the music doesn't seem to make it any less cool. The fact that it's not there, what is there is so cool because of that. And I think part of that is that rhythmic value of it. And I don't know, because I've been hanging out with Gabe and been trying to figure it out. I've been doing that for years. And
you have a nylon string?
I got a nylon that I keep at work.
Okay, cool.
So I got it from my dad because my dad doesn't play guitar. But he wanted to learn, so I got him a nylon because he kept complaining that the regular guitars, he couldn't put his fingers on the fret. My hands are too big. I can't hold down. I'm like,
I got to play it on a nylon string. That's kind of music.
It's it's got the. I mean, even doing the, even
not even for the comfort, but for the tone.
Right, right. That too. Have you ever played? Sorry.
That's what that's all about. The steel isn't really gonna hurt you too much. With
no.
Enough practice. Maybe you'll bleed once or twice.
Bleed once or twice. But it is that sound, the feel of it. Yeah. Have you ever played one of those nylons with the pegs for the tuners? Instead of how.
Oh, going all the way through.
Well, like a violin peg.
Mm-hmm.
In traditional flamenco guitars, they got pegs for the tuning pegs.
Oh.
Like violins.
They're not geared.
They're not geared. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, classical guitars, they're all pegs.
Right, but they're wooden, like a violin.
Oh,
where you have to put the putty and they suck and they're the worst. Gabe, my friend Gabe, they have a nylon string with the pegs. They got that deep into it. They went to Spain to study, and they got a traditional flamenco guitar.
Nice.
And that stuff's fascinating. I guess that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I just did some. I taught my students about Argentinian tango, and because we're doing a culture week, and they're like, "Yeah, it was all right." You know what I mean? They were not impressed, but some of them were.
Where do you teach music at?
I teach at a charter school. I teach at a. I'm gonna leave that blank right now. Just keep that on the hush hush.
All right.
No, I don't know. I don't want to I swore a lot. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I don't want to tag that in there. But I teach at a charter school. I'll tell you off the mic for sure.
Okay.
I teach at a charter school for kids with autism. It used to be pre-K to senior high. Now it's just 3rd grade to senior high because I would go to all these buildings. They had multiple buildings, and then COVID made it, so now I'm at one. And that one goes 3rd to senior high. So, yeah. So, and we've been locked down again, so we've been streaming into the rooms. So, we're learning about tango. Improvising, trying to do music without instruments is hard.
Yeah.
But I got them doing some beats and stuff, so sampling. We're learning how to do that. So we're making do.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so that was a big jump from starting guitar to
You play, did you get into bands right away, into writing or collaborating?
Kind of like when I started playing, like it was really, I did start a band not too far into it. So I got really into AC/DC, and I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. And in a weird way, it was probably the best thing to get into at first because it's so blues-based. And, like, the pentatonic idea, like, playing on, a dominant chord and being able to rip a pentatonic scale, like, there's so much options and leeway, but that's so much of the foundation of so many other things, at least how I understand it now. So, like, I had a band in high school called the Deadbeats, and, like, not even high school, in middle school. That's when I started in 7th grade. And so we did this band. We did a couple AC/DC covers, and then I would start writing riffs. And then as a group, we would write songs. And so it wasn't too far off that. But it wasn't like the punk rock route where I was just, I just started writing songs. Like, no, I kept shedding and trying to learn stuff and make it fit for a band. And, like, so, yeah, we did that for a couple years, and then through the process of that, in high school, our drummer, his name was Dylan Huntington, he moved to Texas and moved back. But when he moved out, like I started another band with my friend Zach Dimmer, who you guys might know from Wanyama. He played, before Cody played in Wanyama, Zach was the bass player.
Oh,
and his brother, was it, because I know you talked with Charlie. Charlie didn't mention the Dimmers.
No.
Oh, my God. Hit the lights. Dim these lights because we got to do this. Zach and Max are two of the nicest, most, like, talented, genuine people in the world. And, like, Zach is a bass player and Max was a guitar player. And they knew Nico. And somehow, I don't know the story of how they started Wanyama, but they started it as a band called the Cleveland Zoo. Mm-hmm. Can I just do a podcast where I tell my version of Wanyama and, like, being a complete side member side person who missed, like, more than I don't know. But Zach, so they somehow, between Nico and Max, I think, they started this band called the Cleveland Zoo, and the bit was they're all, like, based on an animal. And, like,
oh, cool.
Zach was the sloth, like, whatever. I can't remember what. I think Nico went with, like, a chimp or something, and I can't remember what Max was. But, like, he was, like, the original guitar player in it, and, like, they had this other guy named Travis. And, like, so they started playing, and because I knew Zach, we went and saw them play at Nico's backyard for the first time. Like, it was their first show, and, like it was mind-blowing in a way, 'cause, like, they were like, all these people are here to see them. That's so cool. And in hindsight, it was probably, like, not as many people, it was a backyard, but it just made this thing, like, they're doing that thing. And, like, through kind of doing that, I've always wanted to do that. And, like, but people would, like, drummers would move and the singer wouldn't be there. So it left a lot of, like, it's hard to do. It's hard to get, like, a bunch of people to do it. So eventually you find yourself playing drums and piano and trying to figure out the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And you become manic and no one wants to hang out with you anyway. But, so I started hanging out with Zach, and, like, we started a band. It didn't have a name. It was me, Zach, my girlfriend at the time. Her name was Michaela. Our drummer was named Tom Durr, and who else was there? Our friend James. James and Michaela switched singing, and at that time I was starting to learn to sing and play. Like, I was recording myself a bunch, and, like, trying to just, like, figure that out, which is another put a pin in that. That's whatever. That's a old weird. There's no right way to do. I don't know, but, like, we did a couple talent shows, and I remember we won some gig. It was some gig at a bar, and, like, we're on our way to that gig, and, like, we were trying to come up with a band name, and my dad and Zach Dimmer were going back and forth joking, and they're like, "Well, Tom's the drummer. His last name's Durr. What if we were called Sea Level and Durr, Cleveland Durr? Pretty cool, huh?" And in my mind, Sea Level became like a character. It became like a person. And then Tom moved away, and I think that does something with nature. Like, I think I like to say he became a Mountie. I don't know if he did or did not. But so then got rid of the Durr and just stuck as Sea Level. And then I started. like auditioning a bunch of people to do that with, and then eventually landed on Jay Sparrow, and he had this whole project he wanted to do. So I went to do his project, but he's like, I don't have any tunes. I'm like, I got a bunch of tunes that, like, this is skipping a bunch of years ahead. And then like, oh, we need a bass player, and I've been playing with Cody for years at that time. So during all this was happening, like while this was happening, like trying to make bands happen, I was going to mic nights all the time, and specifically George Hartwig's mic night, and like learning to sing and play and just play with other people, and like so, and it was like I'm trying to think. It wasn't just George. It was like everybody. It was Meg Stefkas, Jason, Patrick Myers. Like, I don't know why I had to say his whole name, but I did. I would go to his mic night at the Jigsaw, Meg's at the Lone Tree, and would just keep going up and failing in front of mics. Like, so it was kind of like this, I don't know, weird, like, process of self-work and then trying to make that into group work. And met Cody through George's mic night and would hang out. And we would trade guitar stuff back and forth. And I'm like, hey, you want to play bass for this thing? And then it just kind of took off. So I think I ranted into the other maybe questions of where that might have went. So I'm sorry. Like,
I don't have like a script of questions. Here,
no, I know. Like, but yeah.
Cool,
so
that's some good history. Yeah, I didn't know about the sea level endure.
Yeah. Well, no one should. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Cleveland Dur.
Yeah. I remember telling someone it was pronounced Clevel. And they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "It's like a dead bird." And I guess it's just made up stuff. Like, and that someone was Casey Rednick.
Cool. Let's talk about sea level.
Okay.
Sea level. You guys cover wide array of styles of rock, which I really enjoy, and the live performance, like, it's killer, man. Like, you put on such a good show.
Thank you.
And listening to music's not the same, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Seeing you live, anyone out there, go see Sea Level when they're putting stuff out. You guys writing right now?
Yeah.
More music out?
Yeah. So, like, I guess the answer, the genre thing, that was kind of like just a self-obsessed thing. Like, during that process of going to mic nights and trying to learn and sing and play, and like trying to make a thing with a group work, like, you figure out what you can do and what you like. And so I was just writing all these different types of songs. And, like, I liked people that genre hopped. And, like, I liked people that instrument hopped. You know what I mean? I'm like just the idea that you weren't limited by a thing. And, like, also, like, every new instrument and every new style became, like, its own, like, way to – it became, like, a fresh pattern to try to, like, express yourself. Or to incorporate it differently. Like, what's a flamenco reggae song sound like? I don't know. Are we going to try it? Probably not, but I'll pitch it. You know what I mean? Like, to my brain, like, when I'm, like, doing my work routine, like, to try to write stuff. But, like, so the genre thing, just, like, after trying to make a bunch of different ideas work, like, the ones I would pick that did pan out to be a thing, I would bring to a group. And, like, be like, what do you think about this? And, like, oh, that's kind of cool. Let's do that. And, like, it would either stick with the band or not. So, like, and that became a lot of fun because, like, what shows can we do? Well, if we knock out all the reggae songs, we can do that punk set. Or, you know what I mean? Or, well, if we get rid of those punk songs, we could do that reggae set. I hardly doubt, like, you know, but it's really bad for marketing. You know what I mean? Like, what are you? You're just say yes to everything. Like, but as, like, the kind of, like, the art, like, mindset of, like, being the beginner's mind and, like, to be like water and fit in any situation. Like, I always kind of, my first guitar teacher shed that insight on me. George Hartwig was like, you gotta dive into Bruce Lee, and, like, so I did, and that was a lot of his mindset was, like, to be like water and fit into different situations. And I can harp on that for the rest of the time if you want. I definitely could. But, like, so same with genre. So in my way, like, in my own way, I would try to learn and write all these different styles and on all these different instruments to not be limited and to take the main things from each one, like the idea of, like, rhythm from, like, playing on the drums and applying it to a different instrument. It's still rhythm, right? It's just a new outlet for it. So the same type of thing with genres and instruments. But so like, that's kind of why the band became so weirdly genred, and, like, I appreciate the live performance aspect, compliment, because like me and Cody have been playing together for years, and like it's just I don't know, I like hanging out with my friends, and hopefully like it seems like we do, you know what I mean? So hopefully that's why it seems fun and energetic, is because we're having that much fun, and hopefully seem that energetic like on a good day. But
for those who have seen Level, I'm curious, do you guys keep score for the
handstands? Yeah, it's highly slanted towards Cody, but I'll go on mic right now and call you out, sir. But brother. Yeah, brother, and I have no clue. I was talking with Cody. I'm like, why do we start doing that? And like, I don't know why we started to do that. Like, I don't have any recollection why we started to do that. He said probably because of Johnny Haboo. Are you familiar with Johnny Haboo?
No.
Johnny Haboo is like one of the craziest bands ever and craziest mans ever. Like, he's like done everything. Like, he's been like a writer, a comedian. He was in the Navy. He was in the Marines. He's a bodybuilder. He's a musician. Like, this dude's done everything. We used to play shows with Johnny Haboo at Pat's in the Flats. And like,
wow.
Yeah.
Pat's in the Flats.
We used to host a mic night at Pat's in the Flats too, as a band. Yeah. Like, during the...
Is that place still around?
No.
Oh, man. I
Have you ever played there?
I played there one time.
With
yeah.
who?
They were like Brown Sugar something, or from Texas. They were touring.
Who? Did you know Jeremy, kid with hair in his face?
I don't know. It was probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Okay. He booked a lot there, and like he would book a lot of out-of-town bands, and like
they had a lot of pictures on the wall of like good acts that played there.
Right.
That was the first venue that the White Stripes played outside of Michigan.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. And it's this. It's the fucking shittiest place to be ever. Like,
the sound is really bad.
The sound was like the look at the floor, man. Like, but it was a magic place. Like, that's the place I played my first gig ever. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, I forgot. I was also in like, along with doing the Deadbeats and trying to do my own thing in high school, I did another band with my friend Scott Kirstvan, who's an amazing musician, and like. Our first show, like, out of a school setting was at Pat's in the Flats. Like, it was a completely boom. And, but yeah, and that was a ton of fun. But yeah, so we've done a lot. At least I've done a lot at Pat's in the Flats, a lot of, like, growing there. And then we ended up hosting this mic night there. I think it was, like, every Monday for, like, every blue month in the Capricorn. Like, it never had a clear schedule. It was always fucked. Like, but, that had a thing to do with what you said, I swear. I swear. Stamps. But, no. Like, but, so, like, a lot of, like, we would practice there and grow there a lot as a band. But, like, so we've done a lot, like, just being out and playing. Oh, Johnny Haboo. That's why I said that. Oh, Johnny Haboo. I remember now. I'm not. We would play there with Johnny Haboo a lot. And, like, he would do this thing where he would carry his band members on his shoulders. So he'd pick up the bass player, and then that guy would have the sax guy on his shoulders. And I'll show you a picture, and if you want to drop it in the visual or whatever, you totally should.
All right.
Because it's absurd but true. And, like, I think Cody said we started doing that because he did that. And, like, I don't remember it, but that's what...
Do you remember the first time you did it?
No, I don't. I don't remember
that's
at all.
Great.
Like, it just became a bit, and, like, yeah.
Cool.
But yes, I have no good story for the handstand origin. It will remain a mystery until someone interviews Cody, and Cody will be like, "Yep," like, and just like, "Yeah, we just did it."
Cool, man. What other happenings you got going on in the music industry?
We
just heard about a great benefit you put on last year and towards the end. And that was when we had Grav on. They were about to go play.
Oh, okay. So that probably was for the knitting for the NICU.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Those guys are amazing and like some of the nicest dudes. And like any crazy like scene-based idea that I've pitched, they've always been like, yeah. Actually, we're gonna practice with Josh and Steve. So during that initial question, like 30 minutes ago. You also said, what are we doing? We have a new album coming out. and there's no release date on it yet, but it's going to be 9 songs, and like this one has a bunch of kind of like of our friends featured on it. So like
it's recorded.
Most of it's recorded. I'm still waiting for a couple harmonies, but other than that, it's pretty much recorded. Then we'll mix and master and do all the fun bits and those arguments. But like, we recorded most of it in 2020. And like during that time, Sea Level was doing a bunch of benefit things, but that's kind of been a long. I haven't been good at today because I'm really, really over caffeinated. I had to drink a lot of coffee to keep going today, but like given a clear cut history of Sea Level, but from the rip, we would do these benefit shows. So after I met Jay, Sparrow, and once we started playing with Cody and really locked into this trio and did a couple shows, the next few we would do benefits for Food Not Bombs. We would do a benefit for a friend. We did a benefit for a friend of Gabe's who needed to get a bus ticket to see her dying mom. You know what I mean? Just like anything that kind of made it more than just like celebrate us. Like, and that's kind of been like the origin of Sea Level. Not origin, but like the kind of driving thing. We could all get behind like doing a thing for something else. Like, and not just to do it to be like, oh yeah, we're cool because we help out people. Like, you know, Spider-Man's cool because he helps other people, not himself. But just because it kind of took the bullshit out of it. Like, instead of like, well, what are we getting paid tonight? Who cares? Put it in the bucket. We'll give it to the chick that needs a bus ticket. And we did make enough money for that bus ticket. That was our first like successful benefit. But so it became like a way to focus on what mattered, which was the music and having fun and making like a cool, creative like culture around what we were doing, which you can't see while you're doing it. Maybe now we can a little bit, but like then that didn't seem like what we were doing. We were just having fun and trying to do something to keep all the BS out of the way.
And those shows go better, you think? Like
I think
musically?
Like musically, sure. You know. I feel like musically it depends on like a lot of how the room is, how the turnout is, like how are you feeling that day. Like I think those are big musical factors. Like you can practice and have it 100% down, but if like you get there and like I don't know, some dude in the parking lot like ruins your day, unless you have like the mindset to be able to change it and go on stage and have a good time, you're gonna have a bad time.
Well, if the reason and intention behind the show, does that bleed into how you're playing and how you're feeling up there in a good way?
Yeah, for sure. It cuts out the BS in the band for like worrying about financial like impact, and then it just becomes solely about having fun. And I feel like if you're doing it for a thing you believe in, you can do it louder and you can do it more honestly. You know, like it doesn't. We can do that on any night for no other cause than to have fun. And like I think any band can do that too. I don't think you need to have a cause to be to do anything. You can just do anything to do anything. You don't need a cause to do it. But I feel like even just let me put a pin in that. I feel like even just doing your thing and going full force at it, you're having your own benefit show in a way. Like you're fully immersing yourself in what you love doing, and you might not know it, but someone else in that room's like, oh, man, I want to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and like that doesn't happen unless you do that. So even if you're not playing for a cause or for anyone other than yourself, you're kind of, unless you're being a turd about it, you're really doing something for the bigger picture in a way, because like you're inspiring someone who may have not been inspired. And maybe it's like, oh, I can do that. I should do that. You know, even maybe if it's even for like the like kind of like salty mindset, like you're still that's still out there. And like, so I don't think you need a cause to do it. But if you can get a cause that everyone can get behind, and like it does kind of add an extra oomph to it, and like hopefully like inspires that like bigger culture of like, if you do like love making sounds, why don't you can do something for someone else too. And I think the bigger, like a big part of that is making it minute to like, so we helped our friend Ann get a bus ticket. She's over there. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like to help a company or a bigger thing that you don't know or I don't know. This is like to help her, you know? And like, so in 2020 we did a bunch of benefits. Like our first one was for Negative Space. We did a stream thing.
Can you tell us about Negative Space real quick?
Yeah. So Negative Space is a nonprofit art gallery that is in Cleveland, Superior and 38th. And it's cool because it's like the art gallery world is kind of like you got to fill out papers, you got to do the work behind it to get into it, and like that's usually kind of like there's no open mic night for that, you know. And Negative Space is a nonprofit in a way like it supplies a lot of people their first time having their first art showing, having their first show. So when I went there, or how I heard about it, I was playing with Wanyama. I sat in with them, and it was for a normal benefit show. Do you know what normal is?
Is that for marijuana?
Yeah. It was for a normal benefit, and it was Wanyama, Vibe and Direct, and I think that was it. And like it was Vibes like early, like maybe I don't want to say first show because it wasn't, but it was one of their early shows when they had a singer and he was playing the djembe. I can't remember that cat's name. Excuse me.
I think it started with an M.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. But Wanyao at the time they're like, yeah, you should come up and jam with us. And I got this shitty like electric sitar, like a Squire, like it had an input jack, and I was like, I want to try playing this in a band. And then like, I went there with this sitar trying to play. And like it did not, I couldn't hear it, so I don't know if it panned out or not. They couldn't hear it, so they didn't care. But that was my first time being there, and then we would play every New Year's and just all these shows, and then Gotti was like, oh man, this is so cool, let's do this every month. And then I started to work there, and then eventually got on the board. So, and it's a really beautiful spot. It's this hidden oasis, and it supplies a lot of people their first time for whatever, art show or a music show, or they have a projector, like screening. And that's an important thing to have a place like that that's accessible and that doesn't require a lot of work around to make something happen. So during COVID, they were worried about shutting down. We put together this streamed benefit show to like raise $5,000 for them, and it was all on the good merit of the people and people who love Gotti and like his work. So we put it together, but that was the scene caring for it, you know. That wasn't like there's no real credit we can take for any of these benefit things other than like I put together the thing and put together the list of people, and the what happened was because Cleveland's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? It's everyone who helped out, and it's everyone who like cares about that place. It has nothing to do with us. But that was the first one. The second one was we did a benefit for the venues. So we did our 10th anniversary. At that point, we had 2 shows, Grog Shop and the Beachland, and all the money we raised was going to go to each venue. And that was like $4,000.
You sold them both out.
Yeah, we sold them both out, which was cool. But it was also a COVID sellout.
Right.
But so it was smaller, but it was still sick. So that was in November. The other one was in September, I think. And then we did one it was called Dog for Diego. And that's probably what Tyler was talking about when he was in, or last time we were saying me and Tyler saw each other. And that was for a student of mine who wanted to get a service dog. And he's all stoked because he has like this WAGS account where you can go donate to help him get a dog. And it was like $9,000 for this service dog. You know, like, I'm like, well, what can I do? I can try to help out and wrangle the homies and like just try to be loud and push his fundraiser. And so I booked a week of shows and had all the bands and like that. Like that's the beauty of Cleveland. That's why this is important. What you're doing is giving a voice to that, you know. And that's an important voice to be heard because this scene only works because people care about it. And like the scene only works because the people that care about it care about how it works, you know, and care about the people in it and can get behind that. If not, getting a service dog for a kid would never happen. You know what I mean? It's hard enough to get people to care about your show. And maybe in a big long form answer, maybe that's what kind of gets past maybe that's what makes the show better. Is because like it's no longer about like you can sell out whatever show at a C level, but you can sell out the idea of helping somebody and helping a thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of it kind of separates you from that. So maybe that's the answer to your question. Like, I don't know. Like
the soundtrack to helping people.
Right. Well,
that's how I feel. That's why I asked it. I wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
So like, I don't know. And like in high school, oh man, I really botched my own history. In high school, I went on tour with State Radio. Do you know the band Dispatch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so State Radio is Chad's solo band.
All right.
So in high school, I did their service project called Calling All Crows, and they had these things called ABT tours where you go on tour with the band, and you would do a service project in every city they played, and then you get to hang out with the band, and like you get to like work the merch. You know, you pay to do labor, like, you know, you're not pay, but you pay time and volunteer to do labor. But it was rad because the first tour was just them with this band full service, and the second one was them with John Butler, and like, cool. Yeah, it was super cool. So like that's how I ended high school. Was like, you can go around and do cool shit and help people and play music. That's a thing. So that I should have started with that, but like, that really fucked up my brain. Still, you know.
Cool. Oh, John Butler. Everyone listen to John Butler. I haven't listened to him in a while. That was the guitarist that I used one of his like tapping songs. It's my music school audition.
The what's
Ocean.
Ocean. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. So can you read that on sheet music? And you're like, nope.
Nope. I did it on a steel string, and then everything I had to do for college was on nylon.
Yeah. So that's different, but that's cool. That's a cool audition piece.
That was so much fun to learn. I just moved to Kent, you know, and I knew I had to do that. Yeah. Do that audition. I probably played it for like 4 hours a day for 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh wow, yeah. I got to go back and revisit that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my cousin showed me.
Open C.
Yeah, it's Open C, and I think it's got a D in there for some reason.
It's Open C, but it's really interesting. Capo is the 4th fret, so it's an E.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you know, like I feel like with that, like with open tunings, I feel like that's kind of like forget where you are. You're not really thinking about key until you have to teach it to other people.
Yeah.
And like he was a big influence on me, like him, Jimi Hendrix, Django Reinhardt, like guitar player. Those are like, and Ben Harper. Those are like the guys that like really influenced how I thought about guitar at first and wanted the sound. And
you
like,
remind me of Keller Williams, your style a little
bit
too.
Okay. Liz Bloom said that, and I was like, I haven't really. She showed me some of his stuff, but I haven't really dove in yet. But it sounded cool, so I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, sir. Like, so like, my cousin showed me. My cousin Laura, who works for NASA of all things, she's in Houston, and like, she's like, when NASA has a problem, they're like, Houston, Laura picks up. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. She's got a crazy cool gig. I'm sure it's crazy stressful too. But she showed me John Butler and G Love, and I remember she burnt me CDs like at the family reunion. You should listen to these guys. I was like, all right, or like told me, and then I bought them later. I can't remember, but I remember listening to John Butler and hearing all these sounds. I'm like, how's this dude doing this? You know. And then, like, seeing it later and being like, that was kind of that new way of learning something. Like, well, can I do it on a banjo? Like, and then the strung instrument thing became like, oh, yeah, you just push down any fret and it's a half step. You know what I mean? Like, bladoy. But yeah, like, so, and that's a thing, too. Like, a lot of people I feel are hard, like, they don't like to acknowledge their influence. You know what I mean? And, like, I'd gladly say, like, I definitely wanted to learn some John Butler shit, and like then it ended up being my only good working acoustic 12 strings. So I stuck with that guitar, but I think it's important to do that. Like I think if you can wear your like your influences on your sleeve and kind of like be like, you know what I mean, like you wear, that's not a band t-shirt. Nah. Like we'll wear band t-shirts, but like when someone's like, oh, who you into, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I like Thelonious Monk and like some deeper shit, and like I know you do, but really you got an Angus Young shirt on, like tell me about like you know like maybe that's just an opinion, but I think it's a good thing to like celebrate your influences and not like, you know, not hide them. And I think that I'm answering my own question in my head. I'm just talking at you guys. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. This is the caffeine running through.
I haven't seen a lot of that. People hiding their influences.
Yeah.
Like, how do you mean so?
Okay, so I played in this other band after Sea Level, like has been going for a while, called Hamilton Handshake. I played bass in it, and we opened up for Greta Van Fleet at the Grog Shop. And they I was talking to them, like, yeah, who you guys listening to? And the guy was like, Charlie Parker, like. Yeah, okay, and I'm like
liar.
I guarantee he was listening to Charlie Parker, but
yeah.
Every time anyone asked them about Zeppelin, they seem to be like, nah, maybe they're just burnt out of it, which
Never
I'm
heard
sure.
Of the guy.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, and but I don't know. It's a weird thing from since then. I've noticed in other things, and I don't know, and maybe it's just a pet peeve. Maybe I just want to be like, I fucking like shit I like, and that's cool, you know.
I used to, John Frusciante's a huge influence of mine.
Right.
And I used to listen to him constantly.
Yeah.
Until after we did that Chili Peppers
tribute.
You
need a break.
Because I listened to them so much and dove deep into, all the songwriting and, the intention of each note and all that tone. And I barely listen to the Chili Peppers anymore or any John Frusciante.
Right.
And it's been 3 years since we've played one of those gigs.
Yeah, something like that.
So maybe that's where that comes from with the oversaturation.
Right.
You're just sick of it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just my blood now, and I don't want to talk about
it. But you know what I mean? If you have the same flavor for too much, you don't care to taste it anymore. You know what I mean? You ever go to I'll talk about I'll go to Starbucks for a long time, and then I'll be like, dude, I'm gonna taste this coffee and it's not working. I'm going to Dunkin', or you know what I mean? I'll just change it up, or I'm making my own. I'm done with turning this wheel of the same thing. I don't feel good doing it. You know, you start to really, if you do something long enough, grind those gears of this isn't as flavorful or insightful anymore.
Yeah, you too much dopamine going the whole time, and it just doesn't do anything for you anymore.
But yeah, so Sea Level's coming out with a new record in 2022 or something. We got a bunch of our friends playing on it. And the reason that's why I brought that up. It was because during 2020 we did all this benefit stuff and did all this support, and there was this amazing community within Cleveland, and at the time where it shouldn't have been. You should have felt the most isolated, but in a weird way, I felt the most surrounded by community and support, and maybe not personally for what I was doing, but for a thing. Let's get this kid a dog. Let's help this art gallery stay open. Let's keep these things we love and are inspired by around. And in a way, I through that time I felt very alone, and on this record I wanted to kind of do that in some ways, so we had a lot of friends featured on it, and which was cool on my end to work with other people as opposed to trying to figure out all the harmonies or whatever myself. Not as a brag, I could do it. I would bash my head against the ground trying to figure it out, run the tape again, I'm gonna try it again, and they'd be like, dude, call your friend, you don't need to do this. I'd be like, ah! And that's a learning lesson too, you know, sometimes it's better to go to the homie that can help you, who's been doing it forever, because I feel there's so much you can learn now, and you can do it yourself so much. You can, if you don't know how to fucking play that drum beat, you can look it up on YouTube, and if you keep doing it, eventually you can do it till you can record it or whatever. But it's also cool to have friends and utilize stuff together, and then this thing you worked on becomes more meaningful because it's not just you, it's you and your friend, and it becomes a shared thing. But anyway, so that mindset went a lot into this new record. So we have Leah Mara sitting in with us and her band. So the Dreamcatcher's on a track. We got James Muschler from he used to be in Moon Hooch, but now he's doing his own thing. He's got this really cool meditation record where it's just gongs for 60 minutes, and it tells the history of the universe.
Wow.
It does, but it doesn't. You have to talk to James about it to get that. But I think Alex is gonna record something for us, and there's a couple. I don't want to put anything out there for the friends that haven't recorded with us, but there's been a bunch of other people that are adding to this, and it's became more of a record that wasn't just us, but part of that communal experience we experienced through 2020.
What's the title?
I don't know yet. Like, I got a couple working titles.
Cool.
I wanted to do like DIY, or no, not DIY, DIT, do it together. But Cody was like, man, that's lame. So right, so this is where the fun arguments are. But so not really. We don't. Me and Cody are like a good balance to each other. My stupid ideas, he checks me on. He's like, you can't do it like that. I'm like, you're right. So right now it's untitled, but
All right.
What I was gonna say,
I keep mysterious.
It's untitled. I don't know. It'll be what it is. Like,
Yeah.
But I'm excited with it because it's cool to like share all these bits with people we haven't got to do stuff with, and I think it sounds cooler because they're on it.
Yeah.
And we're recording a couple of videos for it, and that's why we're rehearsing with Josh and Steve from Grav and Missy and Leah from her band on Tuesday to run a couple acoustic takes of some of the songs, like live cuts of it.
All right.
And so that's kind of like the happa what's going on now.
Cool, man. Speaking of like other musicians in the scene, let's who's new? Who's new that's caught your attention? Who's new that you've been playing with or you've been wanting to play with, or
like players or bands or like
players, bands, sounds, artists?
Oh man, like as like a guy who gets to like put my friends up at negative space, I get to like experience a lot of that with maybe not having to share the bill but work the soundboard, or like or even just getting to talk about like doing interviews on the podcast and getting to be a bit of that a little bit and getting to like maybe experience the record like an advanced thing, and like getting to be like, wow, that's cool. Man, new artists. Let me think about that. Like I know Chewy Center was cool. I know you guys just talked with them. I talked with Dave.
Talked with Dave.
So I would like to do something with them. That guy Joe I was telling you about who plays piano at the Front Street Mike Night. I definitely want to do some stuff with him. Yeah, as far as single musicians, like, but as bands, it'd be cool to do a Chewy Center show. It'd be cool to do a Camel Butter show with Sea Level. Man, I don't know. I'm trying to think locally, you know what I mean? Because, like, out of town wise, like, that's endless, but that doesn't pan out, like, with COVID now. So, like,
who are you listening to?
So lately it sucks because I've been doing a lot of podcasts. Like, we were talking a little bit before about putting stuff in the can. Like, I got, like, months in the can. So, like, through reaching out to people, I've gotten people that have been like, could you talk to this guy and this guy? I'm like, yeah, of course. I'll dig for insight anywhere anyone will bear talking to me. Like, I can't believe you guys haven't wanted to hung up the phone right now. Like, so I appreciate you putting up with my rambles. But, like, today I was listening to this cat, Matt North. He's a singer-songwriter out of Nashville, and he's, like, a drummer. And, like, but now he kind of Dave Grohled it in a way. So he's got this new album coming out called Bullies in the Backyard. I was listening to this cat, Matt Pless, who's a folk punk singer-songwriter who me and Michelle Gall played with in New York before, like, a couple years before the shutdown when we were doing, like, this little tour stint. And, like, he's got a new thing coming out. So I've been mostly listening to people I have to talk to. And I say have to in a good way. People I get to talk to. Let me put it that way. People I get to talk to. So I'm like for something like this, I try to do a stupid amount of research and, like, I love Nardwuar, and I would love to be able to do that amount of research, but I don't have the RAM for it in my brain. Like, so I try to, like, dive in deep and, like, listen to everything they have, and, like, kind of bring up bits about that. And so that's basically been my listening diet, is a lot of these cats I'm talking with. So today was Matt North. Yesterday was Matt Pless. I guess it's all people named Matt. And Moody. But, like, and who else was it this week? I'm diving into the Ziggins. Are you hip to those guys?
No, is that your other side band?
That should be my other side band. It's just me and my friends were like, man, and just all talking. Ziggins. It's this band from California, and they did a lot of stuff with Sublime, like in the founding of that band, or they're fans of each other. So I've been listening to those cats a lot. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. I've been listening to a lot of Mark Cousins. he's a filmmaker and a film critic. Like a lot of interviews with him, because he's been a guy that he'll look at something and explain it in a different way, and you'll never be able to look at it again. As far as like digging for insight, I think he kind of fucked up my brain because I want those answers from people, but no one's gonna give them like Mark's cousins will. So that's been my diet as of lately, and like at least as far as I can remember. I'm really blanking. I don't want to pull out my phone and read my playlist. Like that'd be, I think.
I don't want that either.
Yeah. But for sure, those cats.
Cool, man.
And like, but yeah. What about you guys?
Well, Khruangbin.
Khruangbin.
I've been listening to the most.
Did you go to that show?
Yeah.
Nice.
Game changer.
Yeah.
That's what those guys are.
I love their playlists too. Like those albums they have with just all the other artists on it.
Yeah. Black Pumas.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's I love that sound so much, man. And that's a Spanish music producer teamed up with a songwriter out of Austin. Is how that band came to be. And like Grammy winning for like Spanish music.
Yeah.
Eric Burton or something, I think is the guy's name. That is that singer
from the Animals.
No, different Eric.
See, and then Cleveland artists.
Yeah.
Because of Listen CLE. I've been listening to lots of those playlists, and Oregon Space Trail of Doom.
Right.
Oh man, that's
Ryan's such a cool dude.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good conversation with him in the bathroom last time at the Winchester. We were playing. So the other thing was the knitting for the NICU benefit, and that was for Diego's teacher. But I ran Ryan in the bathroom, and we just had like, it was a really funny situation, but it was like a real heart-to-heart situation.
In that tiny bathroom?
In that tiny bathroom. I was in the stall, and he was in the urinal, and like, it was like, yeah, man, I lost my mom, too. Like, it was like a really heartfelt conversation in this shitter. Like, he's that type of dude. He's just the nicest guy, and like, I think there says something about, being in a literal shitty situation and someone trying to make a beautiful conversation out of it. But yeah, they're awesome. Mm-hmm. Who else locally have you been listening to?
AJ in the Woods.
Okay.
But I've listened to them for a while, but like that playlist got me back into it. I went on my driving days where I'm on an edible. It's Space Gorilla.
Okay.
That's Ryan Hodgson
from
Broccoli Samurai's like side thing, and that's some cool music. I wasn't expecting like it to be that good, really.
But it's awesome. Like I don't know, like
and the people we've had in here, I listened to Grav and Camel Butter and Apostle Jones.
I've just been doing the
C-level.
playlist from Listen CLE.
Well, it's really cool with Mike. Well, he's another. Michael McFarland is another one of the nicest dudes ever.
Yeah.
Like during the Amy benefit, or not it's the knitting from the NICU. Amy was the teacher. I fell off the stage and like sprained my ankle, and he was like, him and Amanda were first on the scene. They came up and he's like, turn your ankle this way, do that. It's like, yeah, it should be okay, like straight up. And I was just like, because I fell and I missed the landing, and I was like, fuck. But I said worse words, I'm sure.
We talked about that when they were in here.
Yeah. Oh no! Did he say I said worse words?
Go listen to it.
Oh no! He did. But he's like one of the nice. So like I can't be more thankful, and I followed up with him, but I'm sure it does. I want to go on record and say how thankful I am for that moment, because that was really cool. Like in the moment you don't know, and like if you have someone that will come out of their way, and then so I hobbled back and we ran the rest of the show, and he got me a compression sock from his car. And he's like, This will help. And I want to go on this right here and say I wore that sock for a week after I got out of like the 9th brace or whatever, and it did help. So, Michael and Amanda, you guys are the best.
All right, man.
Turn off this phone really quick.
What we're getting close to the end here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for the rambles. I should.
No, rambles
are
good.
Yeah, you get to ramble, man.
Yeah,
it's your privilege.
Yeah. Well, thanks for enduring my rambles. Hopefully that made sense. Like,
I got a good nap in on one. Just kidding.
Edit out that snoring.
That's all right. That's where you go off the mic.
What other interests or hobbies you have besides outside of music?
Outside of music, it's tough because music's so much of it. It became so much of everything. I guess like you know how you are kind of who you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. So like I really like diving into films I don't understand because of my friend Gabe. And Pat, the drummer in our band, is a huge film buff and like theater buff, and like I like being around stuff I don't get. I like being around people talking about like particle physics and me being like, I keep talking. You know what I mean? I like being like dumb but inquisitive, I guess, or like dumb but like wanting to not be dumb. So I don't know if that's a hobby, but it's kind of a mindset that's led me to a lot of weird conversations and a lot of maybe like boring things I shouldn't have been at but aren't boring, like boring to everyone else but my over-caffeinated brain who's like thinking of like 6 other things. I'm not that absent-minded, but it's really caffeinated right now. No, I shouldn't say absent-minded, but thought skippy. I like to read a lot. I don't have time for it, but I like to read a lot, like a lot of like philosophy and like really, I guess that kind of goes into the podcasty bit. Like I really like to try to figure out why people think, and like philosophy. When I started going to Tri-C, that's the class that made all the other classes make sense. I'm like, oh, I like to get the main question of it, like the main inquiry. How does the brain work? It led to neuroscience, you know, because like some dude thinking like there's 2 brains or whatever, or you know what I mean, like Descartes, like thinking there's the self-conscious, like the 2 parts of it. So like I guess that's not really a hobby, but I like reading like stuff like that. I like reading comics, specifically Ninja Turtle comics. All right. And if you want to get into the philosophical meaning of that, we can. If you don't want to get that nerdy,
we'll have you back for that.
Yeah, we'll have a Ninja Turtle episode.
Eastman and
Laird. Yeah. That's and right. One really cool thing is me and Cody got to interview Eastman, and then I got to interview him once by myself.
That's cool.
So like so like nerding out about stuff like that, and also just like trying to see how learning works in other people, and like a lot of that is what we're doing now, just kind of talking.
Yeah. All right, so you mentioned movies. We always, towards the end, ask for a movie recommendation.
I'm not going to give you any exciting ones, but I'll give you the ones like I'm working through. All right. So I'm working right now it's called Through the Eyes of Orson Welles, and it's a Mark Cousins documentary about Orson Welles, the filmmaker. Let's see, what else have I been diving into that's kind of like the Women Make Film. This is 14-hour documentary on women's film, like women who've directed films, and like so it's kind of a cheat because you get a shit ton of films within it, at least cool clips and cool like insights to it. And like nerdier stuff, I really like the Rurouni Kenshin like live action ones. Have you seen those? Are you guys in the manga or anime? In high school, I hit that hard. Like, all right. That was before music, so that probably saved me a lot of cool points going the wrong direction.
It's been recommended to me a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Just to get into anime.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm nerd. No way. Like, I got a guitar. Sorry.
I have the time and now, I guess. But like anything that they've said to me, I don't remember the name of it.
Right.
Because I wasn't interested only because I never had the time.
Right.
I think I might.
I think part of that is like growing up with it. Like it's like a step towards a more like mature view through this immature way, right? Like you see like Dragon Ball Z, these dudes fighting, like that's totally toxic masculinity, right? And it's totally like this like, oh, literally screaming. You know, it's so absurd and goofy. But as a kid, like you can get invested in that easier. You have to suspend less disbelief. To be like, okay, this dude's flying. Okay, whatever. You know, Superman does that. You know what I mean? Like, you really look past stuff, and you can just like. But there's some kind of like core nuggets in a lot of these things. I think stick with like people who are really into anime and like comics and like manga and stuff like that. That like now, if you never got into it, you gotta really suspend some like disbelief and some like weird tropes and just accept some things. It's a way more work to get like that nugget. that you can also get from like watching like a profound like film that may have more like kind of, you watched Orson Welles. Wow, tell me about your more intellectual prowess than like being like, yeah, dude, I watched Dragon Ball and I realized like all your enemies can become friends. Or yeah, I watched Teletubbies and I thought that television's meant like that's a metaphor for what media you can consume. You know what I mean? Like, like
there's a cartoon I got into later in life, like just the last few years.
Yeah.
That like spoke to me that
way. What was
Adventure
it?
Time.
Adventure Time?
Yeah.
Right. I have so many students that are so into Adventure Time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so fucking absurd. How do you follow that shit?
It's so crazy. But, yeah, the same thing. Like with the age group, it's 4.
Right.
You know, like
it makes perfect sense.
Right. And for that mental growth, you're not going to experience in like a lot of other kind of shows.
Right.
And those nuggets of truth and,
different
that's, perspectives.
Yeah. It's such that show in particular does a really good job with it because it's so absurd and so fast-paced. And, like, I was talking with a student, and he was, like, telling me about the Adventure Time that was on HBO, the
Distant Lands.
Distant Lands. He was telling me about that, and I'm like, yeah, man. And, like, I was trying to, like, and he's like, that one episode? I'm like, yeah, I remember that episode. And I'm like, I got to go, like, look up a crash course. And because of YouTube, they have that. They have the complete history line of Adventure Time. And I watched it, like, 3 times in a 13-minute video. And it's so many, like, sick blop, blah, blah, met, like, bop, there's so, and then Prince is, like, Pumpkin Spice, and Prince is, like, Candyland. And you're like, I can't. This is so absurd. But the nuggets are in there. And sometimes that's what makes them so impactful is they're surrounded by all this absurdness that like a little bit of truth and sensical like wisdom resonates louder when it's surrounded by madness, and like that could be like a big metaphor for life by itself. Like,
so there's a lot of that in anime.
There's a lot of that in any anime. That's a lot of life, but like I think the suspending your disbelief is like hard to do once you like I got that only from seeing the kids at work watch it. But if I would to sit down and watch Adventure Times, I would have to be like, okay, I really need to like suspend some disbelief or like figure out a way to get into this, like, or have like I need to have this discussion with this kid tomorrow. I gotta learn this now. Like, be like, yeah, Jake the dog, dude. He can play violin or viola or whatever he plays.
So what would be a good what would be a good gateway for us to get into anime?
The easiest, least one, like, cause I'm not the biggest anime nerd, like, but I grew up with a lot of that in there, and it kind of coincides with like Cody's comic book and Pat's comic book, like drive that I kind of missed. But, Cowboy Bebop, super easy. Don't watch the live one yet. Let that come to you later. But it's like, it's a very westernized, show. Like it takes a lot of tropes. And the music's really cool. Like, if you're into jazz, it's cool. There's a dude shooting lasers to jazz. You're like, yeah, cool. Like, standards just got a new standard, right? But, and there's a lot of that, like, Bruce Lee philosophy put into it. And, like, so, yeah, that would be a good one.
Okay.
That one, I think you can kind of, there's some of the tropes in there. There's some of the crazy-looking, like, female characters who are like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, how do you walk? Like, but there's a lot of good nuggets in that one. So I guess that would be the anime. As far as, like, film, I'm trying to think on Netflix what's, like, a good film to dive into that's pretty accessible. But the Orson Welles one has just been doing it for me lately. It's really interesting because it's, like, he's making this documentary as a letter to him, not about him. Okay. Which is kind of like, like,
cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Ziggy,
thanks for putting up with me, y'all. Thanks
for being here.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, and I think what you guys are doing is awesome. And I think more and more, like, the history that we've had needs to be looked at and examined and appreciated in the history that we have. And so you guys doing what you're doing now and reaching out to everyone who's making it happen, and like, and just people you want to like endure them talking at you with for an hour, who are over caffeinated.
Who would be a great guest that we haven't had on?
You've had a good run lately. Leah Mara, Alex Mata, Alan Mata. They would be awesome to talk to. Man, like there's so many homies that you gotta get at, like. Older cats, like, I don't want to say older cats. More experienced cat. That doesn't sound any fucking better. Marky Ray, you should pick his brain. He's done a lot of shit, and he'll talk at you more nonstop than I have. Chris Butler. Hey, do you know who he is?
I don't know.
Numbers Band? Are you hip to those guys?
Yeah,
they're from
Numbers
Kent.
Band.
Chris Butler played bass with him for a minute. You talked to Mikey. Trying to think. Did you talk to Michelle Gall yet?
Not yet.
You gotta get Gall. You definitely gotta get Gall. Man, there's so many friends you gotta get in here. But you're doing a really good job.
Great, man.
You're doing a really good job.
Thanks for having a blast doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. All right, friends. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
For the Cuyahoga Sound Podcast, I'm Evan Stone.
I'm Chuck Schilling.
Peace.